Hello everyone and welcome back to the 5 Red Lights. My name is Aaron and today we are going to go through 5 things that were great about the Italian Grand Prix and 5 things that sucked. Let's dive on in.
1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, and it's go!
Before I get stuck into the 5 things that were great and 5 things that sucked about the Italian Grand Prix, I just want to take a hot second to guide you towards my Twitch channel, Aaron5RL, my Twitter page, 5_red_lights, and my Instagram, which is this way. Follow me on all of those and get involved in the conversation. We're going to be streaming on Twitch for F1 2021 My Team, a career save, and we're going to form a team that can rival Red Bull on and off the track, and we're going to have lots and lots of fun discussing all things F1 in the process. And remember, hashtag kind is king. Let's get started with the 5 things that sucked about the Italian Grand Prix. In at number 5 was Sebastian Vettel's Sunday afternoon, which kind of fell apart from the first lap. He had a little bit of contact with his teammate at the first Lesmo and proceeded to lose a further 3 or 4 places in the process, and his race never really recovered. Then he banged wheels with Esteban Ocon and he finished outside of the points. Not the weekend that Seb was hoping for, especially when you consider that his teammate did bag some points. In at number 4 is Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda's nightmare and disaster weekend. It all started to unravel after qualifying. Pierre Gasly actually managed to bag 6th on the grid for the sprint, but Yuki Tsunoda did lose out on a place in Q2 after exceeding track limits. Then in the sprint, Pierre damaged his front wing and crashed, meaning he started at the back. Then on the grid, or even on the way to the grid, Pierre had problems with his suspension. On the grid, Yuki had a brake hydraulic system issue, and then Pierre only lasted about 5 laps in the race. So it was a terrible homecoming race for AlphaTauri, where they scored no points for the first time this season. In at number 3 was brutal Bottas pace. Well, where has this been hiding all season? That is the question I am asking. He might have been spraying champagne, but where has this Valtteri been hiding for the last 3 or 4 years? This is the Valtteri that could have challenged Lewis Hamilton for World Championships. Instead, it's only come after he's been confirmed as leaving the team. Number 2 on the list of things that were rubbish about the Italian Grand Prix was the pretty dull sprint race. Lap 1 was fun because we had a bit of a shuffling of the order, but then it just became a procession and no one could get past because they were all stuck in a DRS train because DRS wasn't as effective around Monza. You'd think with the long straights, overtaking would be fairly easy, but with the DRS not being as powerful because of the low drag settings that the cars were running, the status quo was retained and it didn't make very good viewing on the Saturday. It did, however, contribute to a very dramatic race, putting Daniel Ricciardo on the front row and Lando Norris up in 3rd. So I suppose if you balance it out, it wasn't all that bad. And the number 1 thing that sucked about the Italian Grand Prix was only 50% capacity for the fans. The Tifosi atmosphere was greatly missed. I was so looking forward to seeing the Tifosi back at a racetrack, but unfortunately Italian COVID rules limited them to just 50% capacity, and I think that was even the government being generous. So at least 50% capacity, which is a step in the right direction, all things considered, but it's just such a shame to have missed out on another fanatical atmosphere, very much like the capacity crowd at Zandvoort for Max Verstappen's homecoming at the Dutch Grand Prix. We hope to see you next year, Tifosi, perhaps at Imola again, but definitely at the Temple of Speed in Monza. And now let's move on to the things that were great about the Italian Grand Prix, and in at number 5 was Lance Stroll making a mark against his teammate Sebastian Vettel. We haven't seen them go wheel to wheel all too often this season, but they did on the first lap in Monza on the Sunday, and it was Lance who came out on top, forcing his teammate wide. A little bit of damage to Seb's front wing, and Seb won't have been too happy about that, but it was important for Lance to make his point in the Aston Martin team. He might be the son of the boss, but he still has to deliver. And he did. He picked up P7, survived an investigation for failing to slow enough under yellow flags, and he picked up P7 while his teammate scored nothing. So well done to Lance, ever improving and becoming a more complete driver in the process. In at number 4 It's becoming a bit boring now, isn't it? Williams are in the points again, and it's George Russell picking up P9. But let's give a big shout out to Nicholas Latifi. As I said with Lance Stroll, always improving, as is Nicholas. And he put together maybe his strongest weekend so far. He did deserve points. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to pick up any. He did finish 11th, and that still is really good progress for Nicky. As for George, I mean, he's Mercedes bound. He's flying high with confidence. He hasn't jacked it in at Williams because he's got the Mercedes contract in his pocket, and that is 3 points finishes in 4 races, including a podium, remember. In at number 3, Valtteri Bottas again. He appears on both sides of this list because his pace was so good. It was one of the things that rocked about the Italian Grand Prix. He was brilliant on Friday in qualifying, taking the fastest lap, which really should be pole position. That's a whole different rabbit hole. But then on the Saturday in the sprint, he disappeared. And if you had swapped the two drivers around and taken off their helmets and made them just plain, you'd have thought it was Lewis Hamilton in the lead Mercedes, and Bottas stuck in 5th place. But no, it was Bottas at the front, leading away where he's most comfortable, I would suggest. But then on the Sunday, he did brilliantly to carve his way through the field all the way back up to P3, so he'd get a nice face full of champagne. Number 2, and that goes to Lando Norris's rising maturity. He was looking big picture. He wanted to attack Daniel because the racer in him told him so. He asked for Daniel to speed up so that they could protect themselves from the cars behind. Sergio Perez, Valtteri Bottas, both looking fast. And in the end, he had to play the team game. But he thought very, very well about it. He asked what was best for the team, and they said it's best for us if you stay where you are. So he adhered to not necessarily a team order, but he made sure the team got the result they needed. And you could hear in his radio after the race, he was overjoyed for the team's result. It was even his best result in Formula 1 to date. P2, another podium this season. Just when is that win going to arrive now? Could it be in Sochi? He's ready. And top of the shop is McLaren, back on the top step of the podium. Not only that, 1-2, amazing for McLaren. I've been wearing my DR3 shirt all week in celebration, and no one could be more happy for them than the fans. We've seen the struggles that McLaren have gone through, the Honda years, the Renault switch, now back to Mercedes. They look amazing in the papaya orange, and they've got 2 fabulous drivers. Daniel Ricciardo taking the victory, Lando Norris, a star of the future. If McLaren deliver a car that is capable of winning races on a regular basis like they used to in years gone by, Lando is going to have an absolute field day. He could challenge George Russell in the Mercedes, he could challenge Max Verstappen in a Red Bull, and he could go wheel to wheel with Charles Leclerc in a Ferrari. So good to see McLaren back on top, so happy for them, and thoroughly well deserved. So there you go, 5 things that were great about the Italian Grand Prix and 5 things that weren't so great, but we'll gloss over those because the Italian Grand Prix was so jaw-droppingly dramatic, especially with Max and Lewis's collision. If you want to hear more about my opinion on that, check out my race recap, which I'll link in the description below, and also check out the Formula 1 Grid Talk podcast. I was on post-race on Sunday giving my thoughts and opinions on that alongside George, Tom and Jawad. That's all for today. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, comment below your favourite thing about the Italian Grand Prix, or maybe your least favourite thing about the Italian Grand Prix as well. And remember to follow me on Twitter, Instagram and on Twitch. And remember, kind is king. When the 5 red lights go out, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye for now.